Back live tonight on In Focus, an ugly public spat between Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan and members of the ANC Youth League has been playing out in the media the past few days. In a statement, Gordhan demanded an apology from the Youth League President Collen Malatji, who accused the minister of trying to sell state-owned entities like Eskom, South African Airways, Transnet and others. For more on this tit for tat, now joined by the ANC Youth League spokesperson, Zama Khanyase. Zama, good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. The minister saying there has been a deliberate distortion of the truth to hamper and undermine the work of government to try and reform state-owned institutions. Are you embarking as the ANC Youth League in this distortion of the facts?
Good evening. Thank you for having us, and greetings to everyone who is tuned in. We must say as the ANC Youth League that we have no intention to distort anything. If anything, as the ANC Youth League, we want to make sure that our policy positions are not compromised. And these are policy positions that we have gathered from the National Congress of the ANC Youth League, where young people were gathered, and they sent us that we must make sure that there is not any form of privatization that happens in our state-owned enterprises.
Yeah. So are you saying the National Congress has a different view? Are they not fully in on the intention to restructure Eskom, which was pronounced by the President in 2019?
This is the Congress of the ANC Youth League. The ANC Youth League is not against a restructuring that is going to make sure that government remains completely in charge of the state-owned enterprises. What we are against is a situation where you'd find that, for example, at Eskom, certain parts of it are going to be given to a private entity to run those. Then for us, we view that still as a form of privatization, because ours is to say that the reason why we have state-owned enterprises is so that our government can ensure that all citizens of South Africa benefit from those services, and they have access to them, they can afford them. As soon as there is any form of private companies entering into those spaces where there are services that need to be able to be affordable for our people, that need to be subsidized by government, that needs to be shaped in such a way that even the poorest of the poor can be able to access them, then as the ANC Youth League, we have a problem with that.
So where are these private companies? Because according to the statement from the department, the broken down companies are 100% owned by the state. They are solely owned by Eskom. So Eskom Holding owns all of generation, all of transmission, all of the distribution assets, 100% owned by the state. Where are you seeing these private companies coming?
And as the ANC Youth League, we want to keep it that way. We are saying that there must never be a situation where such a situation changes. That is our responsibility as the ANC Youth League. We don't want to wait until we have reached that stage where now we have private companies owning certain stakes of our state-owned enterprises. And we are not taking this from nowhere. You already can see situations where the post office is no longer operational. In most areas, it is already closed down. We know what's happening at Donnell with the potential defunding of the institution. We know what's happening with SAA. So we are not going to sit by and wait until such things become a reality. As the ANC League was saying, anything that seems like privatization is not supported by our organization.
So, and why are you pinning that on the minister himself? He seems to be taking umbrage to the fact that you seem to be looking at attacking him. He says the latest attacks is what he calls from the president of the Youth League are to be read by the public as an indication that there are vested interests who are trying to cripple the ongoing work at SOEs.
And that is our problem currently as a country. We need to stop personalizing issues. For starters, the president of the ANC Youth League does not speak on his behalf. Whatever he speaks on behalf of the organization, and he speaks on policy positions of the organization. And we have the same expectation that any public representative that has been given a task in government. Whenever there are issues that are being raised by organizations that exist in this country, they receive them as the custodian of their particular department. It's the department that they've been given to head. It must never be personalized, because when that happens, we are going to lose an opportunity to actually delve into issues and sit down and actually have discussions, instead of public spats where it is as if now one must defend themselves. What we want is to sit down. We heard that the minister is willing to have us so that we can sit down and discuss. And as the ANC Youth League, we are also looking forward to that. And we are hoping that the set meeting is going to be organized peacefully, and then it quickly happens, so that we can sit down and actually have conversations. With the Youth League, we are also even looking into having discussions with other departments as well, especially those that are within the economic cluster, because we have so much to raise. We have so many ideas about how we can actually create jobs for youth.
Yeah. So it seems, I mean, the Secretary General of the ANC also wrote a letter to the ANC Youth League trying to hurl you in. One other would say it was a reprimand, to say there needs to be an approach and decorum in how you address these issues within the party. And now there's a note that says the minister could have asked for an apology from the president. Are you noting all these? Will there be apologies that will be coming? Will there be a different approach that you will be taking when it comes to these matters?
The ANC Youth League will never apologize. We have been saying that. We stand by that. We cannot apologize for a policy position of the ANC Youth League. What we can do is to sit down and have conversations. That is what the ANC Youth League is looking forward to. And we have not received a letter from the Secretary General. Yes, there was a statement at some point that was maybe differing with the ANC Youth League, but that is to be expected. The ANC Youth League has always maintained its autonomy, which means that we, as much as we're the league of the ANC, remain the league of the ANC. We don't differ with the ANC in terms of policy position, but ours is to say, let us implement resolutions that have been adopted by the ANC and those of the ANC Youth League which are aligned to it as well.
Yeah. You might not differ in terms of policy position, but do you differ in terms of what, for example, does it require to implement a restructuring of Eskom in the manner that it's supposed to happen? For example, if you're saying we don't even want to see an inkling of somebody trying to privatize, and the minister saying, but it can't even happen because, one, for that to happen, you require approval from Treasury, according to the Public Finance Management Act, in terms of the work that needs to be done. So it can't be just one minister that does that. It require both ministers. And I would imagine it require the whole of cabinet. So even the president would need to sit and see some of these decisions through and how these assets will be distributed. So for the ANC Youth League to come up and say, well, we don't want anybody privatizing this as if it will be just one individual, it shows that you're not in agreement in terms of understanding how the implementation of the restructuring is going to take place.
Well, like I said in the beginning, as the ANC Youth League, ours is to continuously speak on our policy position, which is that we're saying no to privatization. As to how far the process is, how far the discussions are, we can receive that update and when we sit down and have the conversation, where again, even in those conversations, we can say strongly that we would maintain our position that we don't want privatization. In terms of if the restructuring is going to be progressive, it's going to make sure that these state-owned enterprises become efficient and are able to move speedily in terms of delivering services to our people, who are welcome to all of those ways that they can restructure, as long as it does not speak about privatization, because we understand the long-term implications of that.
Yeah. Moving away from the power utility to Transnet, what is agitating you, particularly at the developments at Transnet, for you to be saying what you're saying right now?
Well, we are having a concern, not only about Transnet only. I don't want us to individualize these state-owned enterprises and go into them one by one as if we are not speaking about them as a collective. I was just making examples because we will move from Transnet and go to SAA, and move from SSA and go to Donell, move from there, go to the post office.
Yeah.
We're saying with all the challenges that all of these state-owned enterprises have collectively, because there are challenges. We all know that there are challenges. And there have been suggestions that perhaps part of the things that can assist is that some parts of them, or some of them wholly, be given to certain private companies to run. We are saying that is what we believe is not going to assist us as a country, and it's not going to assist our people in general. So that is our policy position as the ANC Youth League. That is our position as the ANC Youth League. That is why we're also having a problem if our statement is being solely made to be about Eskom individually. This is the view about all state-owned enterprises.
So they are all at a different position, financially, different position of restructuring. So it becomes very difficult to talk about them as just one clump in saying, well, all of them. So you have Eskom, which is going to be divided into three. You have the SAA that is bringing in the Takaso Consortium. You have Transnet, and my understanding from what I'm hearing from the Trucking Association is that there are some several agreements between Transnet, for example, and the truckers to now change the way in which Transnet would do its thing, which will bring the locomotives. But, for example, trucking companies will bring the haul and hook kind of intervention so that we get 20% at least of the trucks off the road. And it's the fear of the Trucking Association to say things like what you're saying now could possibly stand in the way of that intervention that could see us progress much quicker in terms of growing the economy.
Well, what we can say is that, you know, with situations like these, all the presentations will look all good, will look all coming to assist. But what are the long-term implications of that? Because, for example, we are currently discussing, not trying to be off topic here. There's the NHI bill that is in discussions. Already you have some private companies saying, can they underwrite? You know, there's that situation where whatever progressive means provided by government to make sure that our people are receiving services, you have private companies wanting to come on board and say, we can take this and assist, we can take that and assist. But the question is that when they are now inside, will they not have something that says, we are a company after all, we're a business and we have to profit? Because besides the fact that, yes, these state-owned enterprises must perform well, must have a profit so that they can remain afloat. But all of that cannot be the main thing that they are concerned about, to a point of, at some point in the future, even if it's not immediately, where people of this country are compromised, the poor are compromised. Because we need to accept the fact that we're a country that is really unequal. The statistics tell us every day how unequal our society is. And we're saying we're simply not in a position where we can accept a situation where state-owned enterprises, where public interventions such as the NHI that are being proposed, already having private companies wanting to come on board and say, we will underwrite, we will be part of this. We're saying we only trust government to be able to provide these services and provide them to each and every citizen of this country without leaving anyone behind.
Zama Khanyase, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on, speaking on behalf of the ANC Youth League. There's you heard articulating what she says a position of the ANC Youth League as a collective.